I switched my mother-in-law's cup. But what happened next shocked me. 5 years ago, I married Michael. We were madly in love, the kind of love that makes you believe nothing could ever come between you. Not even his mother, Judith. From the moment we met, I felt her cold gaze assessing my every move, every word. "You're not good enough for my son," her eyes said, though she never spoke it aloud. Michael either didn't notice or chose not to. After the wedding, we moved into our own place, which was a blessing. By then, I already had my daughter Lily from my previous marriage. She was 3, and Michael embraced her as his own. We were happy, but Judith was like a splinter that constantly reminded you of its presence. During that first year, she'd show up every weekend. No warning, just a ring at the door with bags full of groceries, as if we were starving. "I baked some muffins," she'd announce, stepping into our apartment. "Lily, look what Grandma brought you." And then she'd take over my kitchen. My kitchen. She'd re-wash dishes I hadn't cleaned to her standards. Rearrange cupboards to make them more functional. Criticize my housekeeping in front of Michael, always with a smile, as if it were just a joke. "Michael, darling, how do you live like this? Look, your shirts aren't properly ironed," she'd sigh dramatically. "Let me show Emma how it's done correctly." At first, I bit my tongue and stayed quiet. Then I started to object, but softly, trying not to escalate. Michael would say, "Mom's just trying to help. Don't take it personally." And I tried. I really did, for the sake of our family. When I got pregnant with our child together, Judith's interference became unbearable. She appointed herself my personal supervisor. She monitored what I ate, how I slept, which vitamins I took. One day I discovered she'd thrown out all my tea and replaced it with her own herbal blends. "It's better for the baby," she said confidently. "My friend is an herbalist. She knows what she's doing." That was the first time I truly lost my temper. "Judith, I appreciate your concern, but I decide what I consume." "You never think about others," she shot back. "Only yourself. Remember, that's my grandson growing inside you." That evening, Michael stood up for me for the first time, telling his mother she was overstepping. It gave me hope that our family was indeed more important to him than his mother's opinions. After James was born, things with Judith became even more complicated. She thought I was feeding him wrong, dressing him wrong, raising him wrong. When visiting, she would demonstratively re-swaddle the baby, saying, "This is how it's done, little James. Mommy doesn't know how." Michael and I started arguing more frequently. I begged him to talk to his mother, to limit her visits, to explain that I wasn't the enemy, but his wife and the mother of his children. But he always had excuses. "You're too sensitive," he'd say. "Mom's just worried. She means well." 3 years ago, when James turned 1 and Lily was 6, we moved to a larger house with 2 children's bedrooms. And guess what? Judith bought a house on the same street. "To be closer to my grandchildren," she explained. Michael was thrilled. I was horrified. Now she could drop by any time, often catching me off guard when I wasn't perfectly put together, with unwashed hair or in an old t-shirt. "Good heavens, Emma, you've really let yourself go," she'd shake her head. In my day, women always looked nice for their husbands. Somehow, these small comments hurt the most. I started feeling insecure, became nervous, irritable. Michael stayed at work later and later, and I grew increasingly exhausted from the constant tension. On the day I want to tell you about, our 5th wedding anniversary, I had dreamed of a quiet, romantic evening, just the two of us. The kids could stay overnight with my mother. She had offered many times. But Michael insisted on a family dinner. "Let's invite Mom," he said that morning. "She loves it when we're all together." I felt everything inside me tighten. "Michael, this is our day, just ours." He looked at me reproachfully. "Emma, don't start. Mom will be hurt if we don't invite her." "And you don't think I'll be hurt if our evening turns into another critique session from your mother?" He sighed. "I promise it'll be fine. I'll talk to her." I gave in. After all, it was his day too. But I decided to invite my mother, Catherine, as well. With her, I always felt calmer. She acted as a buffer between me and Judith. The day began chaotically. I got up early to prepare a special dinner, wanting to surprise Michael with his favorite dishes. The kids helped decorate. Lily cut paper hearts while James, now 4, inflated balloons with a special pump. Michael came home early from work with a bouquet of my favorite lilies. "Happy anniversary, darling." He embraced me, and for a moment, everything felt like it used to. Warm, safe, real. But precisely at 6, the doorbell rang. Judith arrived first with an enormous cake and a package from which gift-wrapped towels peeked out. "This is for you," she said, handing me the package. "Good quality towels. The ones in your bathroom are looking rather shabby." I forced a smile. "Thank you, Judith. How thoughtful." She walked into the kitchen, surveying my prepared dinner. "My goodness, so much fried food. Michael, dear, you know that's bad for your stomach." And that was just the first comment of many throughout the evening. When my mother arrived, the atmosphere lightened somewhat. Catherine always knew how to get along with people, even difficult ones like my mother-in-law. She brought a bottle of good wine and a photo album she'd secretly been putting together, a collection of family photos from over the years. We sat down to eat. Michael made a toast to our family, to love, to our children. I caught his eye, warm, loving, and thought that maybe things weren't so bad. Perhaps I was overreacting to Judith's behavior. "Remember, Michael, how you and Emma met?" my mother asked. It was pouring that day, and the whole office was flooded. I finished with a smile. And Michael offered to drive me home, though we barely knew each other. "And I remember, Emma, the first time you came to our house," Judith interjected. "In that very short dress." I thought to myself, my goodness, times have changed. An awkward silence fell. Michael cleared his throat. "Mom, not tonight, please." "What, darling? I'm just reminiscing. I have a right to my memories, too." I stood up to bring in the tea. My soul was boiling, but I'd promised myself to keep calm for this evening, for Michael's sake. In the kitchen, I brewed the tea in a pot, arranged cups on a tray. In the living room, my mother was showing the photo album while the children excitedly commented on the pictures. Judith periodically added her remarks. "Lily looks so thin here. Weren't you feeding her properly?" I took a deep breath, exhaled, and returned to the room with the tea. I poured for everyone, adding sugar according to preference. 2 spoons for Judith, half for Michael, none for my mother, 1 for myself. Just then, Lily, who had been hovering around the table, came up to me and whispered, "Mommy, Grandma put something in your cup." My heart skipped a beat. I froze with my cup halfway to my lips. "What?" I whispered back. "When you went to get the cake, she put something in your cup," Lily murmured. I saw her. I looked at my cup. Just regular tea, visually no different from the others. Then I glanced at Judith. She was smiling pleasantly, chatting with Michael as if nothing had happened. My thoughts raced wildly. What could she have put in there? Laxatives? Something worse? Did she hate me that much? Or was Lily mistaken? "Emma, is everything all right?" my mother asked, noticing my hesitation. Yes, everything's fine." I forced a smile. "Just remembered I forgot to add lemon. I'll bring some." I went to the kitchen, frantically trying to decide what to do. Maybe accidentally spill the tea? Say it had gone cold and make a fresh cup? But then I'd never know what was in it. Then it hit me. I returned to the room with sliced lemon and casually set my cup next to Judith's while arranging the lemon on a plate. Then, when everyone was engaged in conversation, I quietly switched the cups. My heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone must hear it. But no one noticed anything. Judith continued talking about how Michael and I used to visit her more often in the past, unlike now. My mother picked up her cup, added lemon, and took a sip. I watched her intently, trying to notice any changes. But she seemed perfectly normal, calmly continuing the conversation. I felt a pang of guilt. What was I doing? Suspecting my mother-in-law of poisoning me and potentially endangering my own mother? This was madness. Lily must have been mistaken. Perhaps Judith had just added sugar or some harmless additive. 15 minutes passed. We ate cake and talked about summer vacation plans. Suddenly, my mother put her hand to her throat. "I don't feel well." Her face went pale, and red blotches appeared on her neck and cheeks, a clear sign of the allergic reaction she sometimes had to certain foods. "Mom," I jumped up. "What's wrong?" "My throat. It's closing up," she struggled to speak. "And my heart, racing." Judith stood up too. Could it be the cake? Maybe there were nuts. "There are no nuts in the cake," I snapped, looking directly at her. "What did you put in the tea?" She recoiled. "What? What are you talking about? Lily saw you put something in my tea." I was almost shouting. "What was it?" Michael grabbed my arm. "Emma, have you lost your mind? Mom would never do something like that." "Michael, call an ambulance," I yelled, seeing my mother getting worse. She was gasping for air. While Michael called 911, I searched our medicine cabinet for antihistamines I always kept for my mother. I found a Benadryl tablet and helped her take it. Judith sat in an armchair, pale, with an expression of wounded dignity. "I don't understand how you could accuse me of such a thing," she said in a trembling voice. "All these years, I've only tried to help your family." "What did you put in the tea?" I repeated, trying to speak more calmly, seeing that the children were frightened. James was already crying, and Lily stood with her hands pressed to her mouth. The ambulance arrived within 10 minutes that felt like an eternity. They gave my mother an injection and started an IV right in our living room. Her condition stabilized, but the paramedic insisted on hospitalization. "Severe allergic reaction," he said. "She needs monitoring." "What did she take?" "Tea," I answered, glancing at Judith. "With some kind of additive." "I didn't add anything," Judith protested. "This is all in your imagination." The paramedic looked at us in confusion. "Do you have the cup? We can test the contents in the lab." I pointed to my mother's nearly empty cup. "Emma," Michael put his hand on my shoulder. "Stop this. You're scaring the children." They took my mother to the hospital. I started to go with her, but she insisted I stay with the children. "I'll be fine, sweetie. Don't worry," she said weakly. "Talk to them, sort this out." After the ambulance left, a suffocating silence fell over our house. Michael put the children to bed, though Lily resisted. She wanted to stay with me, to protect me. It broke my heart to see my little girl feeling she needed to protect me. We remained 3 in the living room, me, Michael, and his mother. An abyss seemed to open between us. "Well," I began, "will you admit it now?" Judith pursed her lips. "Fine," she finally said. "I did add something to the tea, but not to hurt you. I put a little melatonin in all the cups, along the rim. I just wanted everyone to relax for the evening to go well. You and Michael have been so tense lately." "Melatonin?" I asked incredulously. "My mother collapsed from melatonin." "Your mother might be allergic to it," Judith countered. "How was I to know? I was only trying to help. But you switched the cups. That means you knew I added something and you deliberately put your mother at risk." I felt the ground disappear from under my feet. She had seen? She knew about the switch? "I saw you swap the cups," Judith continued, "and I said nothing because I thought, if it makes her feel better, fine. I knew it was just harmless melatonin. But you chose to put your own mother in danger just to prove a point about me." Michael stared at me with horror and disbelief. "Is this true, Emma? Did you really switch the cups?" I opened my mouth but couldn't speak. It was true. And now, hearing it from someone else, I realized how terrible it sounded. Lily said she put something in my tea. I finally managed. I got scared. I didn't know what to do. And your first instinct was to risk your mother's health? Michael's voice trembled. "Do you hear how insane that sounds when you say it out loud?" I sank into a chair, feeling tears welling up. "I know. It was a horrible decision. I panicked." "You didn't panic," Judith crossed her arms. "You made a conscious choice. You hate me so much that you were willing to risk your own mother's health just to accuse me." I looked at her, suddenly realizing the full depth of the situation. "And you? You respect me so little that you drug my food without my knowledge. What gave you that right?" "It's just melatonin," she exclaimed. "It's not about what you added. It's that you added anything at all, without consent, without warning. You've been violating my boundaries for years, barging into our lives, telling us how to live, criticizing my every move." Michael raised his hand, stopping me. "Emma, this isn't the time for this conversation. Mom, you should go home. We'll talk tomorrow when everyone's calmer." Judith stood up, drawing herself up proudly. "Yes, I'll go. But remember, son, she was willing to sacrifice her own mother for her paranoia. Think about who you're living with." When the door closed behind her, Michael and I were left alone in the silence of our ruined celebration. He stared out the window, not turning toward me. "You know," he began quietly, "I always thought you were exaggerating the problems with my mother. I thought it was normal mother-in-law, daughter-in-law tension, that you were too sensitive. But tonight I don't recognize you, Emma. switching cups. That's not like the woman I married. And I don't recognize you, I replied through tears. For 5 years, you've been blind to how your mother undermines our marriage, interferes in our life, humiliates me. You always took her side. Always. And even now, when she admits to drugging my tea, you blame me. She added harmless melatonin, and you risked your mother's life. I didn't know it was harmless, I cried. How could I know? She could have added anything. Michael shook his head. Do you really think that about my mother? That she's capable of poisoning you? I fell silent. Honestly, no, I didn't believe Judith wanted to cause me serious harm. But years of small humiliations, constant interference, and criticism had done their work. I had come to see her as an enemy. I think we need a break, Michael said after a long silence. I'll stay at my mom's for a while. At your mom's? I couldn't believe my ears. After everything that happened, you're going to her. Where else would I go, Emma? He finally turned to me, and I saw pain and disappointment in his eyes. I need to think. We both need to think about what happened tonight and what to do next. He went to pack some things, and I called the hospital. My mother was stable. She was doing better. The doctor said they'd likely discharge her tomorrow. I couldn't bring myself to tell her what had happened after she left. How do you confess to your own mother that you used her as a guinea pig? Michael left an hour later, quietly, barely saying goodbye. The children slept, unaware their world was falling apart. I sat alone in the silence of our house, among the remains of our anniversary dinner, reflecting on how we reached this point. How did I become a woman so frightened and harassed that I would risk the health of someone close to me? How did Michael become a man unable to protect his family from his own mother? I suppose it happened gradually, step by step. Each time I swallowed an insult, each time Michael ignored the problem, each time Judith crossed another boundary, we took a step toward this precipice. The next day, I picked up my mother from the hospital. She was weak but holding up well. On the way home, I told her everything about my suspicions, the cup switch, the fight with Michael and his departure. She listened silently, not interrupting, and only when I finished did she take my hand. Honey, she said quietly, I'm not angry with you. You were backed into a corner, but what happened is a wake-up call. You can't keep living like this. You're really not mad? I could barely hold back tears. Of course, I wish you'd found another way to check your suspicions. She smiled weakly. But I understand why you did it. It's the result of years of tension. When someone lives in constant stress, they don't always make the right decisions. My mother stayed with us for several days. I was grateful for this. Alone, I couldn't have handled the children and my thoughts. Lily kept asking where Daddy had gone and when he'd return. I said he was away on business, but I could tell she didn't believe me. 6-year-olds can sense falsehood. Michael called every evening, talked to the children, but with me, he was curt and businesslike. I could feel the distance between us growing with each passing day. A week later, he came to pick up more of his things. The children were at school. My mother had gone shopping. We were alone. How are you? He asked, awkwardly standing in the hallway. Okay, I shrugged. You? Also, okay. We stood in silence, not knowing what to say to each other. Then I decided to take the initiative. Michael, we need to talk. really talk about us, about your mother, about what happened?" He sighed. "I'm not sure I'm ready for that conversation yet, Emma." "When will you be ready? In a month? A year? We're family. We have children. We can't just split up without trying to fix things." He looked at me for a long time. "All right, let's talk. But not here. Let's meet at a cafe, without the kids, without our parents. Just you and me." We agreed to meet in 2 days at the cafe where we first met long ago, in another life. On the day of our meeting, I was as nervous as before a first date. What to wear, what to say, how to act. My mother saw my state and tried to calm me. "Just be yourself. Speak honestly, but without accusations. Remember what connected you, why you're together in the first place." I arrived at the cafe early and took our favorite table by the window. Michael was 10 minutes late, apologized. Traffic. We ordered coffee and an awkward silence fell. "How are the kids?" he asked. "Missing you. Lily keeps asking when you'll come back. James too, though he understands less of what's happening." Michael nodded, looking into his cup. "I miss them too, and home." "Just home and the kids?" I couldn't help asking. He looked up. "Of course I miss you too, Emma. Despite everything, you're still my wife, the person He hesitated. "The person I love." These words made my heart ache. "Then why are we sitting here and not at home? Why are you living with your mother and not with us?" "Because we can't just go back to the way things were," he said. "We have to acknowledge we have problems, serious problems." "I acknowledge it," I nodded. "I've been saying it for years, Michael, but you wouldn't listen." "I was listening," he objected, "but I didn't realize how serious it was, how hard it was for you. I thought you just didn't get along with Mom, like many daughters-in-law. I didn't understand you felt so cornered that you'd take such drastic measures." "What I did with the cups was terrible," I admitted. "I'm not proud of it. But Michael, understand, I wasn't just not getting along with your mother. She systematically humiliated me, criticized me, interfered in our lives. And you allowed it." He rubbed his face with his hands. "I'm guilty, I know, but understand, she's my mother, the only parent I have left after Dad died. I couldn't just turn my back on her. I never asked you to turn your back on her." I was trying to speak quietly, but emotions overwhelmed me. "I asked you to set boundaries, to tell her when she crossed the line, to protect me and our marriage, but you always took the path of least resistance, stayed silent when she humiliated me and blamed me when I protested." Michael was quiet for a long time, then nodded. "You're right. I avoided conflict. It was easier to tell you don't pay attention than to confront Mom. I was a coward." This admission surprised me. In all our years together, I'd never heard him admit fault like this. "What happened during these 2 weeks, Michael? Why did you suddenly realize this?" He looked me straight in the eyes. "I've been thinking a lot, and talking with Mom, with my friend Dave, even went to a therapist a couple of times, and gradually I started to see the picture more clearly. How Mom has always controlled me, how I let her interfere in our marriage, how I failed you time after time." I reached across the table and covered his hand with mine. "It means a lot to hear you say that. But what now, Michael? Can we fix this?" "I don't know," he answered honestly. A lot depends on whether you can forgive me, and on whether I can really change, not just make promises I'll break again. And your mother? This was the most painful question. What about her? Michael sighed. I talked to her. Seriously talked, maybe for the first time in my life. I told her that her behavior is unacceptable, that she can't interfere in our lives, criticize you, undermine your authority with the children. I said that if she wants to be part of my life, she must respect my wife and my family. How did she react? At first with hostility, of course. She cried, blamed you, said you were turning me against her. But then, he hesitated. Then I told her that if she didn't change, I would move to another city with you and the children, and she wouldn't be able to see her grandchildren. I stared at him in shock. You really said that? Yes, he nodded. And you know what? She truly heard me for the first time. We talked all night. She cried, I did too. It was hard, but it was the first honest conversation between us in many years. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't believe Michael had actually stood up to his mother for us. She understands she was wrong, he continued. About the melatonin in the tea, she really did add melatonin. I saw the bottle. It's her home remedy for nerves. She always takes it. But she admitted she had no right to do it without your knowledge. It was disrespectful, a violation of boundaries. Do you believe she can change? I asked skeptically. After all these years? I don't know, he shrugged, but she promised to try. And I promise I won't let her interfere in our lives anymore. If she doesn't keep her word, we'll really limit contact. We talked for several hours. We discussed everything, not just the relationship with his mother, but our own problems that had accumulated over the years. How we stopped really hearing each other, how work and daily life consumed us, how we began to forget why we were together in the first place. When we left the cafe, it was already dark. Michael walked me to the subway. Will you come home? I asked. If you're ready to give me another chance, he said, but I'll understand if you need more time. I've let you down many times, Emma. You have every right to doubt. I need to think, I replied. And I need to see your mother, talk to her, understand if anything has really changed. He nodded. I understand. Just be gentle with her. She's trying. I smirked. Now you're asking me to be lenient with her? No, he shook his head. I'm asking you to be lenient with the situation. She's an older woman. It's hard for her to change, but she's trying. For me, for the grandchildren. She even agreed to see a therapist. 3 days later, I met with Judith. We arranged to meet on neutral territory, in a park we rarely visited. She looked aged and somehow deflated, not the commanding woman I knew. We sat on a bench and were silent for some time. Emma, she finally began, I want to apologize to you for everything, for years of disrespect, for interfering in your lives, for that terrible incident with the tea. I was wrong. I looked at her, not believing my ears. Why now, Judith? Why not earlier, when for years I begged you to respect my boundaries? She sighed. Because I was blind. I thought I was doing what was best. For Michael, for the grandchildren. I didn't see how I was making things worse, or didn't want to see. She paused. You know, when my husband died, Michael became everything to me. My only close person, my reason for living. I put everything into him. And when he married, I felt like you were taking him away from me. I never wanted to take him away from you, I said quietly. I wanted us to be family, but from day one, you saw me as a rival." "Yes," she nodded, "and that was foolish. I see that now. Michael loves us both, just in different ways, and he doesn't have to choose between us." I didn't know whether to believe her, but I could see she was genuinely trying. "What do you suggest?" I asked. "How do we move forward?" "I will respect your boundaries," she said firmly. "I'll call before coming over. I won't criticize your parenting, your cooking, your home. I won't interfere in your relationship with Michael." She looked at me with unexpected vulnerability. "I just want to be part of my son's and grandchildren's lives. On your terms." "Not on my terms," I shook my head. "On our mutual terms. We all need to learn to respect each other." It was a difficult conversation, but perhaps the first real one between us in all these years. A week later, Michael returned home. We decided to try again, with new rules, new understanding, with therapy for both of us. The children were overjoyed to see their father home, especially Lily, who had blamed herself for our fight all this time. After all, it was she who told me about the tea. 3 months have passed. I won't say everything is perfect. We still have difficult moments. Judith sometimes forgets herself and starts giving unsolicited advice. Michael sometimes avoids conflicts, and I sometimes react too sharply to small things. But we're learning to listen to each other, respect boundaries, solve problems together, not apart. Recently, we had a family dinner, me, Michael, the children, my mother, and Judith. I was nervous beforehand, afraid everything would repeat itself. But the evening went surprisingly well. Not perfect, there were a couple of awkward moments, but we managed. We laughed, talked about summer plans, looked at photos. And I caught Judith's gaze. There was no judgment in it, only warmth and perhaps a little regret. When everyone left, Michael and I sat on the couch, embracing. "Do you think we'll make it?" I asked. "Really fix everything?" "I don't know," he answered honestly, "but we have to try. For the kids, for ourselves, you and I, we're worth fighting for our family." I rested my head on his shoulder, thinking about what we had been through and what still lay ahead, about how easy it is to destroy trust and how hard to rebuild it, about how love is not just a feeling, but a daily choice we make. I don't know what will happen next, whether we can truly heal our marriage or one day realize we've inflicted too many wounds on each other. But I know one thing. That evening, that fateful cup switch made us all stop and face the truth. Sometimes you need to reach the edge of the precipice to understand the value of what you might lose. And if you ask me now if I regret what I did, I'll answer, yes. I regret giving in to fear and paranoia, putting my mother at risk. But I don't regret that it finally made us speak honestly. Sometimes only a shock can wake us from the long sleep of self-deception. I did everything to protect myself, but at what cost? Now I know the answer to that question. The price was high, but perhaps it was worth it. Because now I'm protecting not just myself, but our family. And I'm not doing it alone, but together with Michael. As it should be.